This is ABC Newcastle.
14 past 7. So you support lower speed limits on some of our local roads if it made our community safer and more active. Tony is from Jules and you say why not just make it 10 k's an hour, about the same speed as our trams.
The trams go a bit faster than that, don't they?
Is that tongue-in-cheek, Tony?
Thank you. There is a campaign to bring in a 30 kilometre an hour limit on some of our local streets. The Cycle Safe network is part of this campaign and Deborah Moore is a spokesperson for the group. Good morning.
Good morning, Dan and Jenny. How are you both?
Well, thank you. What are you proposing specifically in the Newcastle area?
Well, the Cycle Safe Network and Newcastle Cycleways movement have joined forces to try and promote the campaign developed by the United Nations called Streets for Life, which is basically trying to get some busy, high pedestrian streets speed limits dropped down to 30 kilometres an hour. So this week, the 17th to 21st of May, across the world, there are people just like me, talking to people just like you, trying to get the message out that a 30k an hour CBD street or a busy high pedestrian activity street would be a safe and more pleasant experience for all road users.
Is 40 k's an hour not slow enough?
Well, there has been some research looking at 40 k's an hour compared with 30 k's an hour in terms of injuries and fatalities. So 30 k's an hour, most people could survive if they were hit by a car travelling at that speed, but 40 k's an hour doesn't have quite the same stat. So we are looking to drop busy streets where there's lots of people around to 30 k's an hour by the car user. Yeah.
You've singled out, for instance, Beaumont Street and Derby Street. Are they the only areas where you think this could be beneficial in Newcastle?
Well, I think beneficial to lots of areas around Newcastle, Lake Macquarie and the Hunter, but these are streets where we thought that the people are encouraged to go and walk and shop and eat and move around, but the cars are still going through at quite significant speeds. So by dropping the speed limit, you're looking at a much better experience for vulnerable road users, young people, older people, people who are in wheelchairs, people in scooters, friends who are chatting, who are perhaps not looking around as well as they should for the traffic. So I think those are two streets that are highlighted in our local CBD area. Obviously, we could extend it and ask for a lot more, but I think that just as a bit of a trial, just to see how it works and what the feedback is, would be terrific. We did some work with the Honeysuckle trial, the pop-up bi-directional cycleway and dropping the speed limit, and that's worked really well for all road users. So I think it's something that we should be seriously considering in our CBD with more people living in the city.
The interesting thing around the Honeysuckle Drive trial is that it's also got its own green dedicated bike lane with, sure, barriers that wouldn't necessarily stop a car, but it certainly lets the motorists know that there'll be motorists on one side and cyclists on the other. Why drop the speed limit at all then? Can't we design our roads better to just include cycleways, better footpaths, better pedestrian access?
That would be great, but I think, and that would be like the ultimate is in every roadway is a dedicated cycleway and a dedicated pedestrian way. But the reality is that road users mix. They move across the street. There are people who work on one side and want to go for a walk on the other side. So I guess the thing is in that area, because it's such a high activity area, trialling that 30 k's an hour there was and there's a lot of construction as well. So I think that kind of mix of factors meant that a trial of 30 k's was a really great opportunity for us to see how it worked, and anecdotally it's come back very positive. Your car might slow down for a little while, but it's only for a short period of time, and it's much safer for people using the road, and it's much nicer experience for people who are in that area to not have cars flying through at greater speed.
I can imagine cyclists and pedestrians both say that. Do you hear from motorists that it is too slow?
I personally, no. I haven't heard a lot of feedback in the negative. I think from anecdotally again, the motorist's opinion, I guess, is that for some periods of the day it does slow them down, but for other periods of the day it's probably the speed they would be going anyway, because you've got traffic lights, you've got busy cars. The street is busy with cars, so you stop starting around the roundabouts and around at the lights anyway. So the net effect is maybe it might be about 40 seconds later, but it's really not a big difference. From that perspective, but it is a big difference when you're looking at the safety and the amenity and the experience of our foreshore.
Mel is making a similar point to the one you just made on our text line, saying you'd be struggling to do more than 30 kilometres per hour on Beaumont or Derby with the amount of traffic there, and the lack of car parks is something that Mel's pointing out there too. What do you do with this campaign now, Deborah? Do you take it to our state road authorities, our council? What happens next?
Well, both, because different authorities are responsible for different streets. So it would be great if we could have a local push for local streets being sturdy, and then obviously at the New South Wales, Transport for New South Wales level, also looking at, I guess, a bit of a stipulation that if you're going to be developing an area where you're wanting people to come and enjoy and play and shop and eat, that you make those standard 30 kilometres an hour maximum.
Really interesting to hear from you, Deborah. Thank you, and keep us posted on your campaign.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Deborah Moore there. She's part of that campaign from the Cycle Safe Network.